Just to give you a topical idea of how big our survey is, there were enough participants to fill Wembley Stadium 4 times over, or that's 300,000 times the welcoming party for the England. Okay, not sure why there's a combine harvester there, but I mean, trying to do this, I mean, I'll say this because some of the team are in the room, and I still pinch myself, I have to say, that we've done this survey without major hiccup, without really giving a burden to departments. For all of those organisations, getting them equipped to do this, getting them in a place where we could run this at a single time, get the results, analyse them, and turn them round in a relatively short time. A time we'll get even shorter next year was actually a magnificent achievement. Some departments didn't run surveys, some run surveys of their own, some engaged people to do it for us. So we had very varying levels of expertise. We had a very short time to do this, and we had to do it largely over the summer period. Most of the building for the survey took place over the summer. It's very important that we do quality assure this. It's got to be a really good survey. Over that kind of population, you know, any small errors will become critical overall. So I just wanted to get across. I guess we're going to be unique in this hall. You know, we've got just under 500,000 staff. You know, when you include some of the agencies and NDPBs that we have as well, that's a significant population dispersed geographically and across departments to get a survey of this kind underway. Just for interest, I mean, you know, if you're going to run something like this, we had a very good collaborative approach. So the collaboration was between the departments, between us in the Cabinet Office, and between a supplier who won a contract by competitive tender. And it's very important when you do these things that you build up a good relationship, and I think that we did. What do we do with the results? Well, we provide material for departments to deliver at 3 different levels. One is for presentations to the board. We provide online tools for the department to help them analyse and dissect some of the data that we get. And we produce highlight reports for over 8,000 units. I mean, it's quite important. There's a slide I'll show you in a minute. It's quite important that we don't just think at the meta level. Some of the differences we're finding in engagement really do come down to team and unit level. So it's important that we're able to dissect those results to give people good material to deal with. So what did we find? This is, you know, although I've talked about the weaknesses of drawing some things up to the civil service level as a whole, I mean, it is apparent to us from this and from other analytical work that we do and other work that we do with departments, there are some key themes, if you like, which emerge from the civil service. One is that leadership and managing change we find is a consistent driver across a range of departments. And if you look at some of the work we've done on capability reviews, which is all in the public domain, you will see some of the strengths and weaknesses across the civil service as a whole in respect of its leadership, and particularly in respect of its management of change. How crucial a time it could be for us to have people who understand and are able to manage change effectively just at the moment. Not all of our senior leaders are fully engaged, but we do find where they are engaged, their teams report more positively. Also, we find that those who are disengaged are starkly negative. You know, this is one of our, I said, the price of getting engagement wrong. Disengaged people are very starkly negative. That's what we found. As I said, engagement levels vary significantly in the civil service, both within and between departments. And by segmenting that, we can begin to understand a lot more about some of the things that we need to do. These slides, I asked our sort of technical people, would the people at the back be able to see them? And he said, in his judgment, the people at the back probably wouldn't want to see them. But I'll trust he's wrong on that, and that you are very interested. And I apologise if you can't see them. I mean, they are very simple, and I don't know whether you get access to these slides afterwards. But I mean, they just tell us a bit of a story. What you can see there is that there is a relatively small proportion of the civil service which attracts the label engaged. And then we have some people who are moderately engaged, we have people who are disengaged, uncertain, and you know, I mean, broadly, the potential that we have, if we can turn all of those people into engaged people, is actually wholly significant, it seems to me. So, I mean, this slide is merely saying, look, you know, as I said at the beginning, don't think I'm standing here because we're pretending to you that we've got this right. We have a significant amount of people who, if we got them fully or highly engaged, we could, you know, we could make some significant changes. And if we look at some of those in more detail, we find that some of the engaged staff are more likely to be in higher grades and new in post. I mean, that's really interesting as well. I mean, what do we do to them? Which means when they're no longer new in post, they become less engaged. And our disengaged staff are more likely to be in lower grades and work in the larger organisations. And again, I think just intuitively, you would be saying to yourself that you can imagine what it's like to be a grade member staff in a big organisations, that you're not feeling that you are part of that organisation, you're not feeling you've got an opportunity to influence things, you're not very positive about it. So intuitively, that sounds about right. But again, just look at some of the challenges that we're facing. If we could engage those staff, we could improve significantly. And lastly, it's true that our moderately disengaged people have differing demographic profiles as well as different attitudes about this. And again, you probably can't see this, but I'll just pick out the 3 key points here. The disconnected are more likely to be under 35, while less likely to be new to post. So again, I think that's telling us something very interesting. The disempowered are more likely to be male. In the kind of middle range, what we call SEO, HEO grades, and have to have worked for the organisation for at least 10 years. And the critics are more likely to be female. Sorry, guys. Less likely to be in grades above EO, which is our sort of fairly, the sort of key administrative grade in the civil service, and have worked for their organisation for at least 10 years. Now, I'm not saying these things are significant, you should take them away. What I'm saying is that by doing this kind of analysis and having access to this kind of data, we can begin to, I think, colour in much more clearly the kind of things that we need to do to improve engagement in the civil service. This is a chart I talked about. I mean, this is largely saying that this is a kind of plot of engagement in the different organisations, but the range of engagement that you get within those departments, which again is very, very interesting, because what it's suggesting that even in relatively good departments, you have very varying levels of engagement. Now, what that probably tells us, I don't think we can be sure, but what it probably tells us that there are people in bad departments, if you like, who get it right, and there are people in good departments who get it wrong. So it's really suggesting that despite having sort of policies or approaches to this overall, it does appear to come down quite often to a much smaller unit within the organisation. And again, I think that's very, very interesting for how we take this forward. So the survey is our headline activity, but that's not all that we do. This shows you our model of capability against which currently we assess departments. Again, if you were to look on our website and look at the detail of that, you will see that it's more than just a sort of test model for the civil service. It's really setting out how the civil service wants to be and how it wants to behave. It's very aspirational in terms of the things that we expect from departments and their senior leaders. So, very good correlation for us is if departments follow this model of capability well, we would expect to see some improvements in engagement. And we do lots of other things. I said at the beginning, we are the people for the civil service who are helping the leadership cadre as a whole. We work with them to try and address leadership capability and to try to address some of the issues that we find with that. Very reassuring for us is that there's quite a good degree of correlation between those other assessment tools that we use and the engagement index. So that's very interesting again for us, that we can see that we have a really good picture, a really good understanding of what's driving and not driving engagement in the civil service.